So after the FA Cup weekend, we are back to jump into some Championship score predictions. The Championship is back this weekend, ladies and gentlemen, and I want to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. What do you see happening this weekend? We've got some quite juicy encounters to go ahead and dive into, and as always, make sure to go ahead and leave a like and do stay subscribed for some regular Championship content. But without any further ado, let's jump into these matches. Starting out with Rotherham up against Blackburn. I think Blackburn will be the heavy favourites coming into this one, given that they don't do draws and the form that Rotherham have been on recently. I think a lot of people will be fancying an away win here. Since the resumption in play from after the World Cup, Rotherham have been statistically the worst team in the league, just 1 point from their last 5 matches, only scored 3 goals in that time and have been desperately struggling for form, and I don't think that FA Cup game at the weekend with Ipswich putting 4 goals past them will have especially boosted morale around the camp or anything like that. I think the opposite was probably the case for Blackburn. Good win away at Norwich, good chance to go ahead and keep the momentum building. Blackburn have been involved in some pretty tight matches so far this season. I'm not sure that they'll completely run away with this one, but I do see them getting all 3 points on the road here. Score prediction, I'm going to go 2-0 Blackburn. Just can't see where that next win for Rotherham's coming from at the moment. Next then to Bristol City up against Birmingham. Two sides who could definitely do with a result in this one. It felt like Bristol City hit that low point on Boxing Day, I think it was, when they lost against West Brom at Ashton Gate, and from that point onwards they've had 3 consecutive draws, obviously one of those being at the weekend against Swansea in the FA Cup. Semenyo on the score sheet for Bristol City, a player who there's been plenty of speculation surrounding so far. We've spoken about him quite a few times on the recent transfer videos we've done. Going up against the Birmingham side, who they themselves aren't on a good run of form at the moment. They've only won 1 of their last 7 matches, obviously weren't in action over the weekend, got a little bit more of a break as they play their FA Cup 3rd round match over in midweek. So a prediction for this one, 3 points would be a massive boost to either side, but I think I'm sitting on the fence here with 2 quite out of form teams at the moment. So score prediction, going to go for a 1-1 between these two, but 3 points would be a massive boost. Next then to Burnley up against Coventry, 2 sides who are involved in very dramatic FA Cup ties. Burnley continue to find their form against the Premier League Bournemouth side, putting 4 goals past them in the end. Benson and Zaroury absolutely running the show for Vincent Kompany's side, and I think that right there really shows the level to which this Burnley side are playing to at the moment. I know that Bournemouth made some changes, but still a strong squad that they put out. Coventry on the other hand, oh my god, involved in the tie of the round against Wrexham. What a game and what a spectacle in the end. Probably not if you're a Coventry fan though, obviously being on the losing end of that 4-3 game, but yeah, what a moment for Wrexham. And that away crowd, all the videos that I've seen from Coventry looked absolutely amazing in there. Back to league action here though, and it's not the easiest one for Coventry, an away trip to Turf Moor where Burnley have been so efficient so far this season. The reverse fixture was fairly low scoring. It was a Nathan Teller goal which gave Burnley a 1-0 win. I imagine this one may be a little bit more open and that we may see a few more goals, but I think I've got to back Burnley again. Score prediction, I'm going to go 3-1 Burnley in this game. Just think they'll have too much for Cov. Next then, we've got an absolutely huge game at the bottom. It's Cardiff up against Wigan. Both sides drawing in the FA Cup over the weekend. A draw for Wigan, which has gone ahead and stopped that losing rot, I suspect, but probably not an FA Cup replay that they ideally want given the situation they're in the Championship at the moment. Cardiff had that 4-goal thriller in the end against Leeds. Leeds scoring late on to tie it up at 2-2. But a big game back in the Championship here, especially when we hover over the Championship table. Wigan currently sitting bottom, but should they win this game, they'll just be 1 point behind Cardiff, which shows just how much Cardiff can be sucked into it if they do go ahead and lose this match. On the flip side of that, it's also a chance for Cardiff to go ahead and pull away here if they do manage to get the better of Wigan. I think going off form at this point in time, I know that earlier on in the season Wigan's away form was sort of the thing that was keeping them afloat, but even that lately has dried up. I think I see Cardiff as the better outfit right now, and for a score prediction I'm just going to edge them for a 1-0 home victory, I think. Another massive game we've got going on at the bottom this weekend sees Hull going up against Huddersfield. Hull obviously losing in midweek, but shouldn't take away from anything. Their form recently in the Championship since the resumption in play from after the World Cup, they're yet yet to lose a league match, 5 unbeaten in the league now. They've not conceded more than 1 goal in any of their 5 matches either, which is a real testament to how Rossini is going to head and work with that back line. You know, this was a Hull side who were conceding goals for fun prior to him coming in. It's a big game though, given Huddersfield's current situation. They had those back-to-back wins. They were then sort of dropped back down to reality with that defeat against Luton, and obviously had that FA Cup tie against Preston over the weekend, which they also lost. Didn't think Huddersfield looked particularly great. They did make a few changes for that, but I mean, even in the match that Huddersfield beat us, I didn't think they looked particularly great, but they were effective in the moments they had in the final third, and I think that that's what they need to be, especially in games like this against teams that are still within touching distance of them. However, I've been impressed with what I've seen from Hull more recently in the league, and especially after putting 4 goals past Wigan. I think Hull may fancy their chances in this one, so for a score prediction, going to go 2-0 Hull. I think they've got that little bit more quality in the final third as well. Next then to Luton up against West Brom. This will be a really interesting test for the Baggies, who are now just 1 point behind Luton in the league. They've obviously had to play quite the catch-up job given their slow start to the season, but now are back and in contention for the top 6, as Luton are obviously. Both teams drawing over the weekend in the FA Cup. Luton playing out that draw with Wigan, and West Brom having that balmy 3-3 draw in the end. Thomas Asante rescuing them in the last minute, but will now face a retrospective 3-game ban because of his actions in that one, which is going to be a massive miss for West Brom. There's no doubt about that. Someone who can turn it on, be their talisman in the final third, and offers them something a little bit different. That's going to be a massive blow for West Brom and the next few matches. With that being said, they just find a way at the moment under Corberan. They're creating plenty of chances, and I'm sure they'll go into this game against Luton with a similar sort of mindset. Since West Brom have gone this, great streak under Corberan, this is arguably their biggest test so far away at Luton, a ground where they don't tend to lose all too many matches. But even without Thomas Asante, there's something about this Baggy side at the moment, and I rarely back against Luton, but I think West Brom may just snatch this one on the road. Got a bit of a gut feeling. 2-1 West Brom, I'm saying, but a draw, or even if Luton win that one, wouldn't surprise me. It's a tough game to call. Next then to the Riverside for Middlesbrough up against Millwall. We've got a top 6 clash going on between these two. Both sides did lose over the weekend in the FA Cup, both to Premier League opposition, and so it will be full focus now back on the league, and both sides standing a great chance as things stand of making it into the top 6 come the end of the season. Now Middlesbrough are on a fantastic run at the moment. Michael Carrick has pretty much got this Borough side playing in automatic promotion form. They're averaging over 2 points per game with Carrick, which is a real testament to the job that he's done since he's come in there. But Millwall will stand in their way and as a stern test. I know at times we've spoken about them being maybe a bit more unreliable on the road, but last time out away from home, thought they were really good in that 2-0 win away at Watford, one of their best away performances of the season. Middlesbrough, no doubt buzzing to have Cameron Archer in that setup. Obviously got a little bit of a cameo in the FA Cup, but first league game here, and I do think that striker partnership between him and Akpom dropping off has real potential to be something scary for the rest of the season. So certainly not writing Millwall off here, but I do think Borough will take this one at home. 2-0 Middlesbrough, I think I'm saying for this one. Just think they'll have too much. Next then to Deep Delve for Preston up against Norwich. It's a little bit bizarre really as a Preston fan that I suppose we're coming into this game as the form team, but it certainly doesn't feel like that. Preston, if you include that FA Cup victory, technically we have won our last 2 matches, albeit overall performances haven't really been great, and I think that speaks to the sort of level that Preston have been at, especially in our home matches so far this season. For Norwich though, it's also a similar case. There's only one place between these sides in the Championship at the moment. They themselves now are without a win in their last 5. Obviously, sacking Dean Smith hasn't so far had the desired effect in terms of a bounce and an uptrend in their performances, but this will be the first league game that David Wagner takes charge of, and I would anticipate, whether or not that's an instant bounce, that he does get more of a tune out of these players as the next few weeks go on. From a Preston point of view, losing Emil Rees to what looks like a long-term injury is absolutely gutting, but we have gone ahead and covered over that base for the time being with the introduction of Tommy Cannon. Very excited to see him in action. Hopefully he's involved from the off against Norwich. Honestly, I don't think there'll be a great deal in this one. Wouldn't be surprised if either team sneaks it, but I think I'm going to go for a draw here. 1-1 between these two, I think. Next then to Reading up against QPR. Both sides having quite different fortunes in the FA Cup over the weekend. Reading get the better of Watford and once again speaks to the fact of how good they've actually been at home so far this season, and once again I think that will play into this game right here. QPR not their finest showing once again. It's been a bit of a repeated pattern for QPR recently, losing against Fleetwood, ultimately only having 2 shots on target throughout the entire 90 minutes in that one against lower league opposition. Now the booster for QPR is the fact that they have got that loan deal over the line for Jamal Lowe. Not played a lot of football this season, but for the Championship, the way QPR play and the type of player that they were desperately in need of, I do see that being a really good sign for QPR for the rest of the season. However, I feel like Reading's home form, you can just bank on a little bit more to be a little bit more consistent than QPR are at this point in time. So for a score prediction here, I'm going to go 1-0 Reading. Fancy them for all 3 points in this one, I think. Next then to Brom Lane for Sheffield United up against Stoke. Stoke did get back to winning ways over the weekend, to be fair, putting 3 goals past Hartlepool. That can only be a confidence booster after firing blanks in their previous 2 Championship matches. This is going to be a tough return to Championship action though, against the Sheffield United side who are banging form at the moment. Interestingly enough, it was Stoke who actually got the better of the Blades in the reverse fixture earlier on in the season. I think that was Alex Neil's first win. First home win at Stoke, albeit looking at the Sheffield United lineup from that game, I think it was at a point in the season where they had quite a few injuries that were accumulating, and I'm expecting a much stronger Sheffield United side to be coming into this game right here. From a Stoke perspective, there have been some interesting reports coming out lately. It looks as if, as of recording right now, Liam Delap could be recalled from his loan spell at Stoke and then sent out elsewhere on loan. And Delap sort of summed up Stoke's attacking intent this season. I think there is a real endeavour there, but just not quite having that end product in the final third for whatever reason. It's just not quite clicked for him in a Stoke City shirt, and for the quality on the pitch in this one, I think it's the Blades who probably take it on the day. Score prediction, I'm going to go 2-0 Sheffield United. Just see them having a bit too much for Stoke. Next then to the Stadium of Light for Sunderland up against Swansea. Sunderland progressing in the FA Cup over the weekend. Swansea playing out a 1-0 draw with Bristol City. Been a real frustrating part of Swansea recently, how they've not been able to get over the line in so many of their recent matches, including that FA Cup game. It's just 1 win from Swansea's last 11 matches now. They of course had that fantastic 4-0 win over Watford, but that sort of papered over the cracks of what has been an otherwise pretty torrid run of form for Russell Martin's men recently. And under Martin, they probably have been a little bit of a streaky side, whereby as soon as they do put together a couple of wins, from that point onwards things may snowball and they may have that rise up the league, but at the moment just doesn't seem to be falling for them. Up against the Sunderland side, who I've quite enjoyed watching lately. I think their front 3 are all in fantastic form at the moment, and I think they were probably a little bit annoyed to have only drawn that game against Blackpool in the Championship last time, so they'll be looking to return 2 winning ways in this one. I think they probably get over the line, you know. Score prediction, I'm going to go 2-0 Sunderland. I think they are the favourites in this one, being the home side. Next then to Watford up against Blackpool. Blackpool, who to be fair to them have been doing some serious moves in the transfer market over these first few days. It was Tom Tribal, their most recent signing, which sort of came out of nowhere. Obviously added to Morgan Rogers and Josh Bowler, who I think are really good additions, especially to the way that Blackpool want to play, but sorting out that midfield was absolutely crucial, and if they manage to keep Tribal fit, I think they've got a really good player on their hands there. Watford themselves could do with sorting out their midfield, particularly with all the absentees and injuries they've got in that position at the moment. And Watford are a weird one, where I feel like the more you think they're going to win a match, the more likely they are to lose it. They are that sort of side who has handed out points to teams that have been on torrid runs this season, and for whatever reason, I just think Blackpool may get something here. It was obviously a brilliant result for them in the FA Cup over the weekend, putting 4 goals past Nottingham Forest. Watford, not great, albeit they did put out a second string side. I just think that with the return of Bowler and things like that, Blackpool may take this one on the road out of nowhere. So score prediction, I'm actually going to say 2-1 Blackpool. Just got a gut feeling they might do something there. But guys, there we have it. That will now wrap it up for today's video. Thank you very much for tuning in, and do go ahead and drop your score predictions in the comments down below. I want to hear from you guys what you think is going to happen this weekend. If you did go on to enjoy though, make sure to leave a like and do stick around and subscribe for some regular Championship content. Thanks for watching guys, and I'll see you all in the next one.